Welcome to the Stash Cast, where innovation meets real estate. Let's dive in.
Hey, Clay.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you?
I'm great.
Thank you so much for coming to join me today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Same here. Let's tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Clay Lehman. I'm in Central Florida. I've been in real estate for I guess right at 20 years. I started my journey in real estate when I joined Pulte Homes in their accounting department. From Pulte, I went to work for a large mortgage lender in 2008, and by 2009 was seeking other employment. That's when I started my own business. Today is the 16th anniversary of me starting my own business. On August 19th of 2009, I started Resolute Asset Management when we'd managed foreclosures for hedge funds.
Wow.
From there, in 2011, I opened my real estate brokerage. In around 2015, my property management business. My biggest success, if you will, came through that property management business. From about 2017 or 18, that became my sole focus. We grew it and then ended up selling it in 2022. In 2021, I had started my title company, which is where I'm talking to you from today. Most recently, I've launched a quasi coaching digital products solutions for agents. We leverage AI to help agents grow their business. My big thing is business development and marketing. For somebody from an accounting background who's always been skeptical of business development and marketing, I've come full circle, my friend. I am now all in on the importance of those steps in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am curious, how was that time in, I guess, 2009 doing asset management for hedge funds? But were they like tapes of loans? Like,
Yeah, it was crazy. So first of all, I had no business starting my own proper or asset management business at that time. I literally had no idea how the industry worked. So I had worked for, as I mentioned, a mortgage lender, and they had a large portfolio of REO assets. But I didn't really understand the foreclosure market.
hmm,
So it was pretty quickly after knocking on a few doors that I learned, no, ours we have conforming loans, so REO goes to Fannie and Freddie. A hedge fund bought the majority of the assets from the mortgage lender when they went out of business, and that was my first client. So I reached out to
okay.
them and said, "Hey, I'd love to work with you guys." They gave me a minuscule tape of loans. It was 11. Thank God they did not, because again, I didn't know what I didn't know. The 11 allowed us to get our feet under ourselves, and they had a number of vendors like us, but over time we grew to be their biggest REO vendor. But this was where I learned the lesson of the importance of marketing and business development. I was doing none. So I had one
Hmm.
client, and I was subject to the ups and downs of their portfolio at any given time. And then slowly we added a couple of more. And then by the end, we were doing pretty well. There was just such a glut of inventory. The sand state. It was interesting the way our portfolio would move. When we first started in 2009, our portfolio was dominated by like California, Arizona, Nevada, etc. And then over time, it shifted east to New York, New Jersey. It was a great way to learn the real estate business. You see every kind of messy situation when you manage an REO portfolio.
The Stash Cast is brought to you by Needle. What if you could use data and analytics to predict real estate transactions? With Needle, you can. Check it out at needle.us to learn more.
So I remember when I was first getting started, I started in 2008. I got my first license in February of '08. And then I got here to Cincinnati in 2011. And I remember at the time that there were these tapes being
Yeah.
emailed around, and it was like a daisy chain essentially. This person had got it from this person who got it from, and I was like, this is a waste of time. But I'm so thrilled to talk to somebody who actually has firsthand experience in that world. So, what sort of were they single family homes or
Yeah,
what?
I vast majority single family,
Hmm.
occasional multi-door, like maybe a duplex or a triplex. We didn't have any commercial, we didn't have any like apartment complexes or whatever. But yeah, we would so one of the things we would do for our hedge fund clients when they would get a tape, They'd send it to us, and then we'd pull out a population. Then we'd go do some due diligence on the properties, confirm they exist, see what kind of condition they were in, basically try to handicap the quality of the tape. And yeah, it was
Hmm.
pretty fascinating.
So did you have to do a lot of travel for that if they were spread across the country?
Yeah, I did. I don't know if I had to, but I like to
Yeah.
go out and touch, feel, and see the properties. Plus, I felt like that gave it was a good opportunity. A lot of times we'd meet our clients out for site visits and things like that. But most of what we did was pick up the phone, call an agent.
I
I
see.
mean, we obviously over time built a network of agents that we worked with, but it was
Hmm.
mostly hiring agents, then overseeing them, hiring vendors to do repairs and things like that. It was basically like project management as much as anything.
That makes a lot of sense. Wow. That's fascinating.
But we would go out so we had one repair job in Texas for sure, and I'm pretty sure it was in San Antonio, where the repairs were like $250,000, which is very unusual. The majority of our repair jobs would probably fall between 15 and up to 50,000. It was
Hmm.
mostly what we would call a shave and a haircut. They needed new flooring, new paint, a little cleaning up. We put all that money into it. So we definitely went out to that. And then we had a grouping of high value assets in the Northwest, which was my first opportunity to go out that way. So I'd always take those opportunities. And I'll never forget, like we went and we had one really high value property in New Jersey, and it was on the water. And like we pulled into the cul-de-sac, and as we drove around the cul-de-sac, it's like beautiful home. And you turn around the cul-de-sac, and there was this what looked like the Addams family house.
I saw her. Yeah.
There's our house.
That's our deal. Yeah. Little cock, little paint, make it what it ain't. I heard that.
Make it
Yeah.
what it ain't. I like that. I
Yeah.
hadn't heard that one.
That's wow. That's fast. So you essentially, with that task, you worked yourself out of a job, but then you transitioned into property management, which is like asset management, but well,
It's
you said
related.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, so as my asset management business was declining, I had these employees that did a great job and could manage properties. And when I started my real estate brokerage, it was 2011, and a lot of my friends in this area had left or were trying to leave but couldn't sell their houses. So, like many
Hmm.
real estate agents, the way I got into property management was a client couldn't sell their house. Hey, let's try to rent it. And that's how we kind of got
Yeah.
started.
Okay.
And so as the asset management business was shrinking and I didn't have anything for these folks to do, I said, let's give property management a try. I shifted my perspective on property management from it being just a nice side business to let's make it its own thing and try to scale that business. I moved two people over to property management. I knew asset management was shrinking, but it didn't feel like it was time to take it behind the barn and put it out of its misery.
Yeah.
And I felt confident that we could grow property management. We were able to put some scale behind it.
I feel like what I've seen in my career when I was in brokerage is that third-party property management is a thankless job. And I mean that with all kindness.
No,
And so you've got the owners on one side who are like, hey, where's my cash flow? And you have the tenants on one side that are like, hey, I don't know,
yeah,
I clogged my garbage disposal or
sure.
whatever. Or the guy above me is too loud or whatever. And as a result, I'm not going to pay my rent. And you're just like,
Yeah.
what? So,
No, it can be a grind.
yeah.
One of the things I loved about doing property management was you got this whole ecosystem with an investor. So you could help them find their investment property, then you would help them maintain the cash flow in that investment property. And then eventually everybody gets tired of being a landlord, so you get to sell the property for them. And it was fun to participate with people, especially like there were some people just getting started in investing and they had that excitement and they weren't jaded and skeptical yet.
Yeah.
The timing was pretty good because if you think about it, it's 2017, 18, 19, that's interest rates are super low.
Yeah.
I was reflecting, I'm going to post something later today, like the 16 lessons I've learned in the 16 years. And one of those lessons I think is that low interest rates can make any idiot look like a genius investor. And I can say that because I'm one. It was a lot of fun to help people engage in that. And the same thing with some of the tenant relationships. You are helping somebody obtain housing, and sometimes there was some heartwarming stories that came out of that. But overall, it definitely grinds on you being the go-between, unfortunately, with two unreasonable parties at times. But it is what it is. My dad told me a long time ago, if you can get good at doing something nobody wants to do, that's your business. You've got a business. And that was true about property management. It was true about REO. I mean, when the inventory was high, everybody wanted to do it, but nobody wanted to do it. They wanted to make the
Right.
money, but nobody wants to do it. I half joke that we excel at the dank, dark corners of real estate.
That's where the opportunity is. I mean, that's where you
Exactly.
really find value is in stinky properties.
That's exactly right. I had one investor that would always, when we walked into a property and it smelled mildew or mold or whatever, he goes, I smell money.
Yeah. You just got to buy it at the right price. What it
That's the
is.
secret.
So then how did you get into the title business then?
I remember distinctly when I first got into real estate, I met with a very successful real estate broker here in Central Florida. He said, I make almost nothing on my commissions. I make almost everything on the title company that he owned. When I say broker, I don't mean that as an interchangeable for agent, but he owned the
Yeah.
brokerage, owned the title company, owned the lender. The concepts around title were some of the last concepts I grasped when it came to understanding real estate. But once I did, and it's not, I don't know if you'd put this under the title umbrella, but like the closing, the contract to close process, it's a critical path. You have to have A and then B and then C and then D.
Yeah.
Things sometimes happen out of order, but my brain works that way. I love process and I love building efficiencies and finding ways to do things better, faster, quicker, whatever. And title really fits in that vein where you have this critical path you have to follow, but there's opportunities to improve along the way. I'd always wanted to get into it. And then coincidentally, at the time, I was building some houses for personal investment, a couple flips, a couple rentals. And my builder, I was meeting with his wife runs the office. I was meeting with her doing color selections, and we got on the topic of title. And I said, man, I've always wanted to start a title company. She said, yeah, we're thinking about starting a title company, but I just don't have any time. We
Yeah.
just saw, oh, okay. And so we partnered up, and it's been a great relationship. And I've really enjoyed getting immersed in the title industry. I never expected to be doing it 4 years later. I usually get things started and move on, but I've really enjoyed it. It's a fascinating part of the process.
So are you issuing title insurance? Where do you get your data from?
So our title insurance, we have title underwriters that we get our title insurance from. We're basically like your State Farm agent. He's just underwriting on
Hmm.
behalf of State Farm, similar for a title company. We have three underwriters. When we start a transaction, they give us a title commitment, and that are basically our rules for the road. We meet these requirements, they'll underwrite the transaction, and that's our marching orders. But it's not step by step. It basically says, hey, there's this issue on title, go figure it out. And that's where the fun is for me and some of my staff members that love problem solving.
So what are some of those issues on title that
Some
you
of the
found?
fun ones will be probate issues. So either
Okay.
you've had people that have passed away and they've never done the probate, or what can be really fun is they left it to six siblings, two of which
Ah,
have passed, three of which aren't speaking to the other two, whatever, these complicated relationship issues. Or you'll have clouds on title where the person that you need to clear it, either you can't find or won't respond, or there's all kinds of different stuff. We have one recently where the house was built 1 inch over the
oh
property
man.
line, and that's a
Hmm.
pretty tough one to solve for.
Hey, sell me an inch of your property line?
You have to go to the neighbor, and so first a lender won't underwrite it, or at least this borrower's lender wouldn't underwrite it, so that one canceled. They got it back on the market, fully disclosed and discounted, and you basically are stuck with the house there. If you did
Hmm.
want to amend the issue, you'd need to go to your neighbor and work out an agreement to buy back some portion or for them to issue you an
An
easement.
easement.
There are solutions, but none of them are easy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's something else. We'd have pools that were built in the middle. One of the things we would run into all the time in our REO portfolios, landlocked properties. So you would have somebody that had split up a family parcel 100 years ago where it didn't matter that the middle parcel was landlocked because my cousin Jimmy, I can ride over his property. But
Right.
then 5 generations later, some lender made a loan on that, and now it's been foreclosed, and now my client bought it in a pool. We have to figure out how to get someone access to the property. The REO process was definitely the best real estate university you could ever go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because you see everything under the sun.
Oh,
Do you
absolutely.
do you feel like the market that we're in? today has any parallels to where it was before we went through that big reset?
Absolutely, but I don't expect the sky to fall,
Yeah.
not with the caveat of major or major war breaks out or whatever. But as far as the real estate market itself, 100% I see parallels, but I do think that some of the infrastructure has changed enough that the impact would be somewhat limited. Obviously, like we've had a tremendous run up of value, and that's as much as in some pockets of the country, my area included, we're starting to see price reductions. For the most
Mm.
part, people are still way in the money on their houses. Interest rates being so low, people have ridiculously historically low interest rates on their houses. There's not as much there's less risk there. The parallels that I see are in areas like mine, and I pay attention to what's going on nationwide in some other pockets, is we've had a huge run up of new construction inventory that's outpaced. We were way behind on construction and everything was selling like crazy. And everybody's, oh, I need to build houses. Now we've gone to the other extreme. So I went onto the Florida Realtors website and looked at a month supply of inventory going back as far as I could go. Right now in our area, we have, I think it's 5.5 or 6 months of inventory. At the height of the housing crisis, we had 30 months of inventory.
Wow.
So we are so far, even in 2021, we had less than 1 month inventory.
Right.
So now we're
Everything's
all
so
like, oh my
scarce.
gosh, we have so much inventory.
Yeah, I'm sure you've probably seen it too, but the gap between renters and property owners.
I pay more attention, I would say, to that number locally, but we have more units available now. Again, I think things are picking up a little bit. There's talk of interest rate reductions in terms of that positive headwinds or tailwinds, positive news. If
Mhm.
interest rates come down, that spurs buyer demand. I think we're going to see prices come down some more. I think we will see an uptick in foreclosures, but we're still below historical foreclosure levels. So we still have a little
Mhm.
ways to go to even just get to a normal market. But I'm not getting the band back together to get back into asset management, I guess is the way I would say it. I don't expect to see the level of opportunity that we had before. Now, I am paying attention to my local foreclosure auction because I'm starting to see more houses come through and there may be opportunities at that level. I don't think we're tremendously at risk for the sky to fall again.
Yeah, I don't think so either. A lot of conversations with lenders, commercial lenders, and they'll have occasionally a couple of things going wrong, but for
Yeah,
the most part, and I'm in the Midwest, so you have the conservative Midwestern values where not a lot of floating rate debt was brought in,
sure.
bridge loans or debt funds, things like that. Most of these guys, property owners, locked in uh, low fixed rate mortgages for
Exactly.
as long as they
Yeah.
could. And, they've got,
It's just not as risky of an environment as it was at that time. But you
Mhm.
don't hear about people buying 7 houses on 7 different arms you just don't hear that stuff anymore.
Yeah. Well, that is a fascinating background. So you have transitioned, you've done almost like all the different facets of things in real estate. And now you've said, hey, I'm a process-oriented guy and I'm out there trying to help other agents, brokers, you
Yeah.
might say, improve on what they're doing. So how do you do that?
So it evolved out of doing business development for my title company. So when I started the title company, what I've learned is I like to get the operations as tight as possible before I go out and try to grow the business. So I spent about a year or so making sure we were really nice and set up well to grow. And then I transitioned into doing business development. And what I found was as I was meeting with agents, the meetings were turning into me sharing things from my background to help the agent. When I meet with people, whether that's real estate agents or anyone else, I'm just naturally curious. And I like to ask a lot of questions. And if there's an opportunity to offer some sort of input, not try not to be overbearing or unsolicited, but generally speaking, I see an opportunity. I read a book that addresses that. I would love to recommend that to you. Or I've run into this in the past, and just more and more that was going on. I got the sense that I was fortunate to have this kind of weird, windy path to where I got to, and it learned a lot of lessons that I could share with other people. And not only that, I really love meeting with people, kind of learning about what they're trying to address or problems they're having and finding ways to help them address it. And so that sort of transitioned into kind of exploring possibly doing coaching, which I've done a little bit of, but I really enjoy more of creating tools and frameworks and then sharing those with a larger group of people through workshops, or I'm building out some different either modules of trainings or different tools. I've developed what I love. I really enjoy it. It's a thing I built in AI where with somebody's name and geography, I can generate this 500-point assessment of what their digital footprint looks like. Because
Hmm.
what I learned in my business development efforts was I did what most entrepreneurs do when they first start is I hear I need to be marketing. So I'm going to do this and then this and then that, but nothing is I'm doing this to lead to that because of there's no strategy. It's all just let me throw everything at the wall. And what I've learned is that effectively your customer is on a path, and that path is going to lead them either to you or to your competitor. And what's going to lead them to you is a clear demarcation, a map, a GPS that takes them from not being aware of you to knowing that you're the absolute perfect person for them. And I want to help agents build, and really anybody, my background's in real estate, but I just real estate professionals in general, or really any small business owner, just want to help them understand better what's their customer journey. And then my assessment looks at where are those points on the map where you're not giving the right direction. So, like a perfect example is we all, oh, I need to post on social media. Okay, great. Yes, we do need to post on social media. But when someone sees your post, do they know what to do next? Does it have a call to action that says, go to my website or download my tool? And we also
Hmm.
focus a lot on self promotion. We need to focus on content. You put out good content, then they'll become curious about you. Then they're going to click on your name to see your profile. When they look at your profile, do they see you at your kid's football game? But your profile picture should be something attractive and professional, and your banner is where you capture them and they click
Hmm.
there, and that should lead them to the next step of the process. And I'm sorry, I guess I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's just the idea of keeping in mind that your marketing efforts should be strategic and lead down a path. And
Hmm.
it took me a long time to learn it. Now I'm like, okay, now I know it. I want to show other people how to dial that in their business.
Did you create like a course on school or something like that?
Yeah, so that's where I'm headed. I have a free Facebook community that I put a lot of value into, and
Mm.
then we're going to create a school community. I'm still trying to figure out what's the best fit for my delivery method, if you will. What I found with trying to work with people one-on-one is I'm too tempted to want to do everything for them.
Yeah.
What I'm doing now is I've done a couple of workshops that have gone really well, and then I'm thinking more of a mastermind type structure in school. I think that's where I do a lot in Go High Level. That's where my website's built, my CRM and all that. But I think the
Mm.
community aspect of school, the way that it's being promoted and growing, I think that's the next place to go. The problem with the Facebook community, I love it. I don't have to
Yeah.
ask them to come to school. They're there already. But the problem with your Facebook community is the first word of that is Facebook. They own it.
Yeah.
You don't own it. That's not your
Right.
traffic. I really loved Russell Brunson's books, and he talks about that's traffic you borrow or traffic you rent, but it's not traffic you own. And your goal needs to be to transition the traffic you rent or buy to traffic you own. And that's your
Hmm.
school community, your email list, and things that you control. So that's where we're headed for sure.
That's really interesting. But
Sure.
I don't know if you looked much into it. The hypothesis behind it was what if you could use data and analytics to predict real estate transactions?
Sure.
And we found that we can.
Yeah.
So let's, how do you go out and cultivate and curate community of users who are going to sign up, but then also use it? I want to have interesting conversations with interesting people, but then with the users, I don't want people to just sign up and then not use it. I
Yeah.
want them to actually use it. Like,
Brother,
how do you do that?
my first workshop went really well. I had a pretty healthy number of signups, and I think people really engaged with what I had to say. But afterwards, I followed up with some folks and I learned that it wasn't really usable for them. And the reason being, I was trying to pack so much in to one
Hmm.
workshop. While my background is in real estate, I've spent the last 18 months diving deep into AI, and I didn't do a good enough job. What I was teaching was how they could use AI to build systems to drive leads 24 hours a day.
Hmm.
What I may have taken for granted was because I came from that background that I'd be able to communicate it well enough. Unfortunately, I think I still had too much of that AI stuff of the language in my head, and I didn't do a good enough job of translating it into agent. It was too dense. Yeah,
Hmm.
you just encapsulated my 300 words into the perfect two words, too dense.
Yeah.
When I did my next workshop, I built a custom GPT that I trained to have kind of the knowledge and experience of my average user. Then every time I did a run through of my next workshop, I fed it into that GPT, said, what in this landed with you? What language was to whatever? And it just really helped me distill my, like, for example, I was talking about SEO. And I think most agents are familiar with the term SEO, but it pointed out that's still a little techy and helped me translate that to people finding you on Google. It landed a lot better. I relate 100% to that feeling where, yeah, I want you to sign up, but it doesn't do me any good if you sign up and you don't get value out of it. That's not my mission. My mission is to help you be better at what you do. The kind of epiphany I had was I felt strongly that I was delivering value to my users. But value, there's no value in something they can't use. It doesn't matter how much value it's almost like beauty's in the eye of the beholder, so is value.
Yeah.
If you can't use what I'm giving you, no matter how much value I feel is there, it doesn't matter. And as you said to me before we started, asking the question proves that you're on the right path. I would
Yeah.
say the fact that that's your concern proves you're on the right path. You are giving usable, valuable things, and you just work with the user base or with some avatar of the user base to understand how better to deliver that so that it can be used and not too dense.
Hmm. In getting into the term avatar always confused me. I went through some other coaching programs early in my career and they really helped me, but they started talking about avatars and I was like, are you talking about a specific guy? Never clicked with me, but then getting into this side of things, it's who's your ICP? Who's your ideal
Yep.
customer profile? I was like, oh, why didn't you just say that?
Why do you have to say avatar?
Movie? The blue was
Blue
going
people?
on.
What are
Yeah.
we talking about here?
I think that we were talking about it around the same time that the movie came out.
I'm pretty sure it was in Buy Back Your Time, the Dan Martell book, where he talked about one of his clients, like they visited with them and everything they were proposing, they said, well, we'll have to run it past Debbie. And finally, by the end of the meeting, he's, can we just meet with Debbie? And they said, sure, come with us. And they took him to a room where he met Debbie, and Debbie was their customer avatar. And they had a room dedicated to Debbie where there were pictures of Debbie and descriptions of what
Hmm.
Debbie likes and what Debbie doesn't like. They had gone that far to personify
Wow.
their avatar. But yeah, you nailed it. It's the ICP, the ideal client profile. Just really understanding who they are is important to delivering value to that person or that group.
I've tried to build a custom GPT. How did you go about doing that? About how
Yeah.
you've done that?
I
Right.
saw a great reel the other day where it said communication in 2050, and somebody knocked on the door, and the guy goes, chat, someone knocked on the door. What do I say? And every interaction was chat. What do I say? Building a custom GPT, there's two main components. You have your custom instructions and your knowledge documents.
Yeah.
I went into Gemini and did a deep research document on my ideal client. Like I have a pretty detailed document that describes my ideal client. It just describes that my ideal client is a real estate agent that's had some level of success but feels stuck,
Hmm.
and then goes into some more of that detail. I said, I want you to build out a document that represents this ICP's general knowledge level, general education level, general exposure to AI. I just really wanted to encapsulate what the average person coming to my workshop would be knowledgeable about. And so I created that as one of my knowledge documents. Then I went and got my custom instructions and I told chat what I was trying to build. And I asked it to create my custom instructions and then let me know what other knowledge files I needed to create. And so then I would go and it would offer to create them for me. So basically, then I uploaded my custom instructions and my deep research documents, and I played with it a little bit to see if the results coming out of it made sense. I usually have to do a couple different iterations of my custom instructions to get them to work right. Whenever I do a workshop, I try to build at least two custom GPTs that I can give to the participants to help them shortcut what they're doing, what I'm teaching. I have to do a lot of testing because the last thing I want is to give them a GPT and then have it blow up on them. I do a lot of
Right.
iterations of the custom instructions, but it's the biggest thing in my mind to successfully building custom GPTs is just being committed to testing them. They're never going to do what you want them to do right off the bat. No matter
Hmm.
how well you design them or how many you've built, you're always going to have to run through and go, oh, wait, I need to revise my custom instructions. I use Claude a lot to write custom instructions for my chat GPT. Seems to do a better job with writing. Everybody has opinions on which model does what. To me, Claude does a better job with creating custom instructions.
Do you think that AI is going to replace us all? Or what's your opinion on that?
Not anytime soon. No, I don't think it's going to replace us all. I think more and this is becoming cliche, like real estate agents am I going to be replaced by AI? The cliche is no, but you're going to be replaced by an agent using AI. Literally right before I got on here, one of my friends posted an interesting question on Facebook. He said, do you believe children should be given AI enhanced or AI generate toys or devices? And there were a number of people that said no, and I certainly understand that perspective. My thought on it is yes, the world that we live in has been
Yeah.
irrevocably changed by AI, and telling them don't to be ignorant of AI is like saying you'll do math with no calculator. Calculators exist. We need to know how to use them. And I think AI is the same way. I think the
Hmm.
fear is what I hear a lot from, like, I try to post a prompt of the day. And today, a lady shared a very valid opinion. She said the prompt was about using AI to create content. And she said, shouldn't we just use our human voices to create human content? And I replied and just said, no, I think that's 100% correct. What you're seeing perhaps is that you're seeing AI used incorrectly, meaning, hey, chat, write me a blog. That's not the way you do it.
Yeah.
You
No.
say, hey, chat, here's my experience. Here's my knowledge. Here's what I know about this topic. Help me craft a well-written blog. That's how you maintain your voice and agency. Your question I've gotten a little far afield of is it going to replace us? It's going to replace some of us, just
Hmm.
like the every sort of major shift has moved us from being agricultural to industrial
Yeah.
to informational to AI maybe. It'll be a shift, but I think that it'll eliminate jobs and create jobs.
Yeah. That's what I think too. And I feel machines did take some jobs, and those were terrible jobs, probably.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I've always thought of it as a tool
And
and
that was a
think of it
closing
like
point
that.
in the post where I responded to my friend asking is it's a conduit and it's an enhancement, but it shouldn't be replaced. Just like I listen, I'm not saying give kids the devices. I get driven when I go into a restaurant and you
Yeah.
see a family of five and everybody's
Right.
that drives me crazy. I'm saying teach the kids how to use AI as a tool. Teach them how to engage with it responsibly, just like you should do with screens, TV, computers, food, what everything. So, anyways, that's my little soapbox.
I like it. I like your perspective. So, who is your ICP?
Generally speaking, it's real estate agents or real estate professionals, so lenders, title companies, property managers. This is what they do. They've had some measure of success, but like most of us, you've reached a ceiling or a plateau. You're working harder than ever. You feel like you're doing all the right things, but your business isn't growing. You don't lack something other than a strategy and some knowledge.
Hmm.
And that's where I kind of want to bridge the gap. I think people miss the opportunities to simplify their businesses by delegating. We all try to save money. I'm not going to spend the $20 an hour it would cost me to get a bookkeeper. I can do that myself. If you want to make $200,000 a year, you divide that by 2,000 hours in a year, that's $100 an hour. You shouldn't be spending
Hmm.
your time on $20 an hour tasks. I saw a great quote. Nobody ever built $1 million business on $10 tasks. You've got to get out there and get those out. I teach people, I'd love to take credit for the framework. A friend of mine introduced me to it, but it's eliminate, automate, and delegate. So it starts with the least sexy thing of all time. You got to document your processes. It makes that so much easier now. So I already mentioned the book, Buy Back Your Time. Dan Martell talks about what he calls the camcorder method. And he says,
Yeah.
this ages me because he says, I've been doing this long enough that I did it with a camcorder. But now you can use Loom to record yourself doing a task
Right.
and then take that transcript, throw it into AI, boom, your process is documented.
Even just the Loom video itself of, hey, this is how I'm doing it.
Oh, it's such huge leverage. Then you can look at that and say, what am I doing that doesn't need to be done anymore? The examples I see frequently, like I had one in my own past where one day I went to, I think it was my accounting manager. I said, why do we run this report? And she says, oh, so and so needs that. And I'm like, so and so hasn't been a client for 3 years. You get in these like habits and traps.
Rhythms.
That's
Yeah.
one. Another one that we don't think about, and this isn't process elimination, but it's those clients. You have to get into a position where you can fire clients because not everybody is, you're not a good fit for everyone, and everyone's not a good fit for you. And you have to get to where you're comfortable saying, I love you, you're great, but we're not great for each other. And that's a huge moment of liberation in any business owner's life. Then we want to
Yeah.
look at what can we automate, and we have so much opportunity in our modern world to automate things. The best example I can give is our intent was to send out an email every time we leased a home to notify our owner that, hey, we leased your property for you. And we did most of the time, but sometimes we forgot or we got busy or whatever. Same thing for when rents miss. That's such a critical thing for a property owner to know. And our
Yeah.
intent was always to, hey, I just want to let you know the tenant at 123 Main Street, we haven't gotten their rent payment. Here's the steps we're taking to collect it on your behalf. It just didn't always happen. But when we implemented automation, every single time those things happen. And not only that, as the business owner, now I'm big on relinquishing control, but I do
Yeah.
knowing what communication is going out on a regular basis, and you get that control when you automate. Then finally, you want to look at delegation. There's such a
Mhm.
tremendous opportunity to delegate tasks, and you can do it with fractional help with a transaction coordinator. I would argue, and again,
Hmm.
this is a Dan Martell
Yeah.
concept, the vast majority of people that own their own business that work full time could use a full time admin immediately. That's what I try to impart is that's how you're going to liberate yourself from the prison of the business you started. That's how I told my wife one night when I was in the dregs of my own having started I said I built my own prison with this business.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I could break free, and then it started to slowly happen when I learned more about how to effectively delegate, process stuff, whatever.
No, it's good. I like it. Your ICP, are they residential or commercial, or have you defined it?
My background has been 99.999% residential, and that's where I
Mhm.
feel like I can provide the most value.
As somebody who spent all of my real estate career in commercial, I appreciate you saying that because
Yeah,
though it's the same license, it is a little bit different world. Um,
100%.
and you get in the same way that I have hired residential agents to sell homes for me.
Exactly.
Um, it it grinds my gears when you get a residential agent who comes in and the first thing they ask is, "What's the fee?" Let's see if we even have a deal here.
Yeah, for real. One of the things that I talk a lot about is narrowing your focus. In my market, we're a relatively mid-sized to small to mid-sized market. We've grown some. But there's a temptation to say, I do everything. But even just saying, I do high end, low end, middle end investor, first time home
Mm,
buyer. And I advocate, hey, start narrow. Say, I do this.
yeah,
Because when you say, I do this, you're casting a wide net with big holes that people pass right through. Your message doesn't resonate because you're trying to be too broad.
yeah,
And I read Content Inc. probably 10 years ago, and it's still one of the books that's foundational to me. The way I go about marketing, one of the big things he talks about is you go narrow to then go wide. You go to a narrow audience, you
yeah.
optimize that audience, and just naturally it'll grow out from there. And that's what I advocate with my real estate clients is narrow it down. Now, usually I like two or three sort of ideal clients, but you really need to know who you serve if you want to have a message that resonates.
Fascinating. How do you like go high level?
I love it. But you hear the but coming. No, it's
Yeah.
just you can launch a rocket ship with it, and it's about that level of complexity. So for
Mm.
me,
I feel like any CRM is gonna
you
be,
nailed it
yeah.
exactly. I think any effective, powerful CRM has some level of ridiculous complexity. With
Hmm.
Go High Level, if I had tried to self-implement, I would still 2 years from now be trying to figure things out. I hired somebody to help me implement, and that got me going. But really, it's incredible how one, Go High Level does make things super easy for you because they have snapshots and things you can upload that are like right out of the box. They work. And one of the things that I've been super impressed with High Level. They give you so much value for what you pay. Their system will literally do everything and it does it really well. And you can eliminate a lot of duplicate things. Like it'll do your Calendly and your link tree and
Yeah.
your funnels, and it does everything. And that comes with a certain level of complexity in setting it up. But once it's set up, man, it hums. And that's one of the things that we've developed is we have a snapshot for real estate agents that goes website, CRM, funnels, drip campaigns, lead magnets, everything. All we need is your information, some pictures and such to load in for you, and it's
Right.
basically ready out of the box.
It's phenomenal. That sounds great.
It's fun. It's been really fun to engage with and learn how to use it. And like, I'm sending out some of my assessments for people, and I've built a really cool looking dashboard in Gamma. It's like an AI presentation software.
Yeah, I played around with it a little bit.
One of the most fun things you can do with Gamma is it has a generate a presentation from a one-line prompt. So what
Huh.
I've done in some of like my workshops or presentations, if I have some time at the end, I'll be like, you guys want to see something cool? And so we'll go into chat and say, hey, give me the wildest idea you have for a presentation. And then I'll put that into Gamma. One of them was the history of competitive duck herding, which is a real thing. Another was The Art of Negotiations as Taught by Pirates. And the third one that was fun was a workbook on surviving a zombie apocalypse using only corporate language. So it was like almost like being taught to survive zombies by the staff of the office. I built this really cool scorecard in Gamma, and Gamma allows you to convert that to a website. I can drop that into GHL and makes it really easy to share with the recipient. I really do love GHL. You just have to
Hmm.
have help getting it to where you need it to be.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have HubSpot and it's highly capable, but I don't understand it at all.
The AI tools are super helpful to say, I'm trying to do X and go high level. They know every system. I'm sure the same is true for HubSpot. It'll walk you through how to do most things, but I do get a little nervous. I don't want to hit the wrong button and break the entire infrastructure.
Yeah, yeah, that wouldn't be good. Clay, this has been great. If somebody who's listening is interested in reaching out to you, or being in touch, or engaging with your services or platform, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on everything, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. My email's pretty easy to remember. It's clay at imclaylehman.com. I
Yep,
wanted, or my Facebook group is called Unstuck. If you just do Unstuck AI for agents, it'll come up. Like I said, that's free, and we put a lot of great value in there. I'm easy to find, and I would love to connect with your audience.
that's great.
Awesome.
We'll be in
Yeah.
touch. I hope you
Oh,
have a
man,
great
thank you
rest of your
so
day.
much. I greatly appreciate it. It's been great talking to you.
All right. Thanks, Clay.
That's it for the Stash Cast. Subscribe, share, and stay ahead in commercial real estate and prop tech. See you next time.